soon I'd like to start training them to some electrical wire. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to a beautiful sunny morning. And I just want to show you a little bit what's going on, do some chores, take you with me for that. And a couple nights ago, we had some really heavy winds for here. And actually had a tree limb snap off from right up there and landed over here, and I can't see any damage on the roof itself, though I do see up top there I see some debris from the limb, so it's possible that it hit and slid off with the wind. That's most likely what I'm guessing happened. And fortunately, it didn't do any damage to the roof itself. But I'm gonna start feeding these animals because they're getting a little impatient with me. First, we gotta start by draining out our grain here. I still got these piglets are still on a partly pellet diet to try to help them gain. And some of you guys may know, I'll talk about it again here. A couple of years ago, I bought some Duroc Cross gilts as babies. And one of them was a runt. And one of them was normal, I would guess, standard size, whatever. And they both grew out at very different paces, as you might expect in that situation. And actually I was expecting in that situation, was hoping for the runt one, which is Tootsie. She's over here straight ahead. She's the taller, skinny black one of all these girls, with the floppy ears right there turning away. In hopes that I could at least get one litter out of both of them as they grew up to the size and maturity, to pair up with my American guinea hog boar. Excuse me. Because that's all I had. Let's see if I can shield the mic. That's all I had as a boar at the time, were American guinea hogs. I'm gonna pause for a second here. All right, so I apologize. Had to go get the microphone because the wind was kicking up, and then now it died down again. But it'll likely kick up again, so better to have it equipped. And there it goes again. So as I was saying, I got 2 Duroc Cross gilts a couple of years ago, and what happened is they were not regularly cycling until they hit about the 1-year mark. And when that happened, I put them in with my boars. At the time, I had another medium-sized boar in here, and he was very eager. And what he would do, this is Pumpkin here, she's the full size, and you can see she's over twice the size of Tootsie, the sister. And that's my main American guinea hog boar over there, and so he's a little short now. She's been in here with him for a couple months now, and I don't think he's equipped it anymore. I think his equipment's a little too short to breed her. But I do have, just behind my American guinea hog boar is the boar that I kept from Tootsie's litter. So I was able to breed Gumbo with Tootsie, and I think she's still short enough now that I could probably get another litter out of her whenever I'm ready to try again. She doesn't seem like she's growing any taller now, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to grow this little boar out and try to breed him back to Pumpkin. And if that is successful, then I won't have to go any further, and we'll get predominantly Duroc Cross babies out of that. The boar side will be obviously half guinea hog, but breeding him back to a 3/4 Duroc will give us a little bit stronger Duroc for meat production. And the idea was that I would see how the guinea hog and the Duroc would hybridize as far as keeping them out in pasture. This hasn't been a very good year to assess that, because it has been so dry. I haven't really gotten much forage. Usually we'll have summer rains that will bring in fall and winter forage, and I was looking at pictures from the year previous and 2 years prior, and my whole back lot area is full of green, and this year it's just totally brown, which is a lot of leftover from last winter's weeds that have just dried up. But those aren't in areas like you can see over here. Those aren't in areas that I graze my pigs. So I've got about 8 acres that I use to rotate my pigs around, and fairly soon I'd like to start training them to some electrical wire, and if I can successfully do that within the areas that have permanent fencing, then I'll go out into the other 30 acres that I have and actually do a more traditional rotational intensive grazing with temporary or electric fencing. So if anybody's not watched my how I make my chicken feed video, what I do is I do a 2-day soak on barley, whole barley, then I do a 1-day soak of a mixture of soy meal and alfalfa pellets, and it's like a 2-to-1 currently is what seems to be working for everybody. 2 soy to 1 soy, or 2 soybean meal scoops to 1 alfalfa pellet scoop, and I use about it's like a 2.5 or 3 cup measuring scoop, and that's just every day. That gets a 1-day soak, and just to help it become more readily digestible for the animals. Got the clump out of the machine. So that's what it looks like. And then this particular bucket, I've got 2 different batches that I've got going. This particular bucket goes to my roosters and my meat birds. Now it's winter time, so I've actually got most of the roosters isolated, and I've got those meat birds isolated because they were actually stealing too much food when they were in the general populace of ladies. And so the reason being is they are way more efficient on feed than the other ones, and on top of that, they're not currently laying any eggs. So, and they may never lay any eggs, but they did lay some eggs when I first raised them up through their maturity and cycling them up. I don't know what cycling them up means, but on their way to maturity, they were laying a few eggs, and I don't know if they've passed that stage or what, but so that was letting the Icelandics out, and there's a couple other ones that have started to call that little coop home. So now I've got to do the second batch of grain. Now this is actually the batch that is going to be feeding most of my layers, and so this is the one that I actually put some oyster shell in. If you notice, I didn't put any in the group or the batch that was going to the meat birds who are not laying, and to the roosters that are obviously not laying. And then I just add the rest of the soybean meal and alfalfa pellets, and then fill this back up. So I've got a hard plastic. It's a 2-cup measuring cup up to this line here, but I fill it all the way, so I'm guessing it's about 2.5 cups when it's totally full. And I just get some alfalfa pellets. These are horse pellets, 14% roughly, I think. And then the soybean meal. I do 2 of the soybean meal. So like I said, this is really just to help it to start breaking down. Got some bees in there. And then this one, make sure that the lid is nice and tight on this one. And that's it for that. I just wait. The reason I put this up on the table is just so I can see how well it's draining. So we'll wait until the rest of the water drains out of that, and then we'll give it a mix, and then feed it all to the chickens here. We'll go ahead and let these girls out. Back to pigs. There's Gumbo, my big boy. And you can see how tall Pumpkin is. There's a good shot there. She's a good 8 inches taller, I'd say, 6 to 8 inches taller in the hind end. And here's the guy that I'm hoping will be able to grow up big enough to pair up with her physically and mechanically. So that's the basics of the chores at the moment, other than collecting eggs and everything. Pretty bare bones. Not doing any fodder right now because of the temperature. It's too cold. First off, it's too cold for the fodder to actually perform well. Most of the seeds don't actually germinate when the temperatures get too low, which is usually around late October to sometime in November. And obviously we're into December already now. So and then the other side is the supply pipes to provide water to my double wide trailer that I keep the fodder system in will burst, freeze overnight and burst. So to save myself the headache of having to fix that more times than I'd care to in a year, I just stopped doing fodder. We'll fill up this wallow, not so much that they can lay in it, but they do tend to drink from the wallow quite often. Now, these are the half guinea hog, half Duroc cross. I've got 2 gilts and a barrow in here. And as I said, I've got the boar in there. And I actually sold 2 gilts to someone who was interested in raising some pigs, and they were supposed to be giving me some progress reports, and I got one early, and then they just kind of stopped. So I don't really know what they're feeding them, how much bigger. I'm sure they're like way bigger than what I'm growing out now, because I haven't, for the first 5 months, I haven't really been giving them a heavy feed. And right now I wouldn't even say I'm giving them a heavy feed. I'm giving them probably a moderate feed. And they are growing some, but they don't look like huge meat pigs right now. So we'll just have to see. But the idea is, right now, because of this whole COVID situation, my butcher is 6 months out. So as soon as I found that out, that actually put the window in place for when I thought I'd be able to grow these guys out. So I am now going to start growing them out now that I know what my butcher date is. It's the 2nd week of May. I've got 6 months to get these guys ready. 2 of them. One of them we'll be butchering ourselves, and then the other one I'll make available to somebody is wallowing in there. The third one I'll either keep as a potential crossbreed experimentation, see if I could breed it back to a guinea hog and just have a little bit of Duroc in there, and compare the half and halves to that breed once they can actually go back out on pasture. And that's the one big difference that I've noticed in having these two very different types of breeds, is the Duroc crosses, I have to feed them a lot more for them to keep their weight up. And if they're not being productive, if they're not producing either a meat product for me, or if they're not producing additional litters, that's not very sustainable. Then you basically just have pet pigs. But the guinea hogs, on a much lower quality feed and just kind of random forage, they will actually keep a decent weight on them with just me giving them that flake, the big flake of Sudan grass hay every day. I'm not noticing any of them losing weight, but I do have a hard time keeping weight on Tootsie, who's in there, and she's the Duroc runt. So it is a bit of an experiment to some degree, so there is some research and development costs involved. And in trying to figure out not only what my customers for the meat production will want to have, how much it will cost me to produce that product, and how much feed I need to keep on, and what type of feed I need to keep on, and everything like that. So now that I'm not doing the fodder anymore, the pigs that are out in the field are strictly hay, and it's between the Sudan grass and the alfalfa hay. And the piglets are hay, and they also get the pellets twice a day. When I'm around all day. Yesterday I was not around in the evening, so I did not feed them an evening ration of pellets, but I did give them extra hay in the morning. I just didn't want to wake them up when I came home at like 10:30 last night. So that's the update for the outside in the boring, drab winter. And I'll bring you inside to show you what I'm going to be working on today and hopefully succeeding with today. All right, we're inside. I don't think I need that lens anymore. So last weekend I came in here and I was grinding on this slab and identifying some high points, and I took my lumber crayon and marked a few different areas, and I can feel a few different areas underneath my feet that are not quite level. And I had about a 1 inch, I think is about a 1 inch chipping chisel for my rotary hammer. And what that was doing was it was just starting to just break down into the slab too much. It was taking big chunks, and I didn't want to necessarily do that. What I was trying to do is try to chip little flakes off. And so what I did was I got an assortment of chisel bits. Now these are, my breaker hammer is an SDS Max. These are SDS Plus, but I have actually bought, for a different application, I bought some SDS Plus drill bits, and what that required was I just bought an adapter, which was actually a relatively expensive adapter. But if you factor in the price difference between a long SDS Max drill bit and a long SDS Plus drill bit, you only have to buy like 2 or 3 bits over time to pay for the adapter. Plus it gives you a lot more flexibility with the different options that you can use for whatever job you're doing. And most rotary hammers are going to be SDS Plus anyway. I went ahead and bought the bigger SDS Max, and this was from Harbor Freight. I bought this a couple years ago, and here is the adapter that I was talking about. Transitions it from the SDS Max to the SDS Plus, and it adds a little bit of length to everything. But with what I'm doing on the ground here, it actually will probably be helpful to have a little bit longer. So the idea is I'm going to take this 3-inch chisel here and try to chip away at this. And if this doesn't work, I think this set was like 30 bucks. And one of the other benefits to this set is this actually is a tile removable chisel. So for the area out there and my duplex projects that I have, prepping the floor for doing tiling over there as well, I thought I would be able to use that beneficially instead of having to, all the other tile that I've taken up in here has been with just like a little pry bar and a hammer. And so now that I've got to do the bulk of the living room and dining room and kitchen, I wanted to have something that was a little bit more mechanical advantage. But we're going to try to work with this wide chisel and see how it goes on this floor. All right, well, unfortunately, it appears that on some of the footage that I took with the microphone attached, it didn't capture the audio for whatever reason. It captured some of the other stuff that I did outside, no problem. But when I came inside, on a lot of the updates, it did not capture a lot. So this is actually, today's Sunday. This section over here is what I did yesterday with this little scaling chisel. And although it did work well in getting it, you know, nice and smooth down, once I got to that fissure in the middle there, it was still chipping everything up, and it was taking a really, really long time. And last night my shoulders were really sore. Today they were really, my arms are weak and sore just from handling the rotary hammer and having to be down on my knees, and you have to kind of lean into it to give the right pressure, but you have to also hold it in control so that when it kind of breaks loose of the material, you don't just fall flat on your face. So it's really it's strenuous by comparison to a lot of other stuff that I've been doing, and I'm getting older too, so that's part of it too. Can't do what I used to do in my 20s and even 30s as much anymore. So what I did today was I actually shifted gears. I switched over. I've been using just the point chisel or the point bit, and I went back to the chisel. And I'm not going to try to make this pretty and flat, at least initially. I just want to remove as much of the material out of this center channel as I can, and I'll worry about cleaning it up later or figuring out exactly how I need to fill that once I've gotten the work done. But in about an hour today, I've covered roughly the same amount of area as it took me almost 4 hours to do yesterday. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a pin in it for this weekend, and I may switch to doing the third application of mud work around the taping edges. Everywhere else looks to be pretty good. I'll have to just kind of scrape it even, scrape it level. But that, I think, is going to do it for this weekend's video. But as always, if you like this video, give us a thumbs up. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing to our channel. We really appreciate it and helping the channel grow. Please leave us a comment in the comment section. Click the bell notification so that you're notified of when we have new videos come out. And as always, thanks for joining us, and God bless.